I don't even know what that analogy was, but there you go. How do we optimize these three pots for wealth creation and financial freedom? Hi guys, thank you so much for joining me in another video. Today I want to talk about budgeting. I know that word itself sounds quite daunting for some people, but in this video I'm going to talk about how to budget to invest. Some people, not having a budget means that they have to live paycheck to paycheck, and that means worrying about how you're going to cover all your bills, how you're going to pay for some unexpected expenses in case you come across them. I'm going to explore a simple framework that will help manage money better. There's a popular method known as the envelope method, and it works as such where you put a specific amount of money in each envelope where you know that the expenses are fixed. So you know how much your rent is, so that will go into one envelope. You know how much your travel will be to work, so that will go into another envelope. So it's the same thing with your major expenses. And that means that you're putting all your money into an envelope, and so when you do have that extra cash, it's quite easy and visible to see. There are other methods like the jam jar method and the piggy bank method, which all pretty much work in the same way. The point is that you give every pound or every dollar a job, and by putting it into specific envelopes, you know that that is what that job is for that particular pound or dollar. There's an even more technical method for this kind of budgeting, and it's called the zero-based budgeting method, and that's where you allocate each pound to a specific pot. Both my husband and I use this, and we use an app called YNAB. It really helps us consolidate all our bank accounts, our ingoings, outgoings, and generally helps with our investments and tracking our net worth. So anyone starting off creating a budget, I would recommend starting off with 3 different pots. So using this bucket approach, we'll go up one more level and think about the different buckets that you should be using. Most budgeting videos that I've come across break down individual sort of outgoings and refine the maximum amount that you can save. But I want to take it back a step. So for all those beginners out there who haven't really budgeted, we're going to think about the 3 big pots that you should split your money in as soon as it comes into your account. This is quite a difficult process, especially if you haven't thought about your income in this way before. However, in order to be financially independent and also grow your wealth, this is the kind of mindset that you need to begin with. So what are these 3 pots that you should be splitting your income into? So the first one is the savings pot. So the savings pot is an emergency fund. There are 5 things that you need to know about the savings pot. The first one is the money should be held in sort of like one of those high interest savings accounts. It's easy access, so in case there is that emergency, you can quickly access it without having to fill out paperwork or wait 24 hours or what have you. You don't touch that money. It's the third thing. The fourth thing is you don't touch that money. And the 5th thing is you don't touch that money unless it's a rainy day. So don't touch that money unless it's an emergency. And it can be quite tempting because the savings pot, if you don't have an emergency in a particular month, will continue to grow and grow and grow. You'll see that savings pot is going to grow. And that savings pot is there. Personally for me, it gives me comfort knowing that I've got cash in an account just in case I need it. I'm the kind of person that really worries about imminent disasters around the corner, so I'm always risk managing in my head. That savings pot gives me comfort, so when I look at my accounts I can see actually there's enough in the savings pot in case there's something that happens and we need to suddenly get cash or something. Whereas my husband is completely the opposite. He's like, it's fine. If the money's invested, it's going to work and all of this. Whereas me, I'm like, actually, I need my savings pot and I need to see that there's money in the savings pot. If you're doing this as part of a couple or with your partner or whatever, you might have differing opinions on how much needs to go into the savings pot, but you kind of have to find a balance where both of you are comfortable in the amount that goes in. But I'm going to give you some recommended amounts that work really well, and according to research have worked well for other people as well. So when things hit the fan, that's when you dip into your savings pot. The biggest risk factor that your emergency fund covers is your loss of employment, and that's why according to research and a lot of recommendations, it's important to have your emergency fund to cover at least between 3 to 6 months of your employment, and that's the amount of time that it will take you to find another job. In certain jobs it can take 6 months before you are actually in the role, from actually being accepted and being in the role, and other jobs which are a little bit more fluid, like the administration type roles, you can be in the job within a month or 2 depending on demand. In addition to that, the emergency fund can also cover things like your boiler breaking down in the middle of winter, because obviously that's when it's going to break down if that happens. There you have it, that's what the savings fund covers. So the second pot that you need to think about is your investment pot. And in here, as soon as your income comes in, you put a certain proportion of your income into your investment fund. And that's where your money is going to work for you. Those little capital soldiers are going to create that passive income for you once it's invested. And the third and final pot is the living fund pot, okay? So this is where it gets a little bit interesting. And this is where you pay your living expenses from. And having a budgeting system, something like YNAB, you have all your categories, so you know exactly the expenses that you're expecting every month in terms of living. But it's also the fund where you'll pay your rent, you'll use to buy clothes, you'll use to Uber, you'll use for your takeouts, and it's all the elements of life that fund will pay for. Most videos I've seen on YouTube focus on this particular part of the pie and focus on how to reduce that in order to increase the amount that you save. And that is fair, but we also need to think about the other two pots that I've also mentioned. How do we optimize these three pots for wealth creation and financial freedom? Perspective on how you spend money in terms of your living fund and generally how you invest changes as you grow older, I suppose. In your university years, you would spend money buying clothes, looking trendy, looking hot, going out drinking, traveling, whatever it is, because you had no commitments. But as you get to my age and you have children, you need to be a bit more methodical in your approach to handling your pots. And if it was an ideal situation when you were younger, you should have built a strong foundation for your future. But it's fine, you lived life and we are here to all learn. I guess the point is the future will always meet us, so it's better to be prepared for that meeting rather than it's suddenly knocking at your door and you're still in your pajamas kind of thing. I don't even know what that analogy was, but there you go. Now we know what the three funds are. The question is, how do we split our income across those three pots? So typically, I think if I can get a pie chart, I'll try and put it over here so it's a little bit of a visual. What is recommended is 50% of your income should go into your living fund. So that's the third category that most YouTubers talk about, and how to minimize those expenses. But I also want to emphasize the importance of putting the money into the first two pots. So the savings fund and the savings fund, which is the emergency fund, and the investment fund. And typically you put 30% into your investment fund, so that's the money that you're going to invest and that's going to work for you every month, and 20% will go into your emergency fund. Okay, so that's for your peace of mind. And yes, I know 50% of your income can be hard to live off, but that's where the budgeting comes in, and that's where you have to be a little bit more strict, I suppose. You don't have to be strict, you can budget for everything. So when we first started off our budgeting process, I felt like I was being restricted. Even though I'm not a huge spender, like I still felt like I was being restricted because there was an amount written down. But in reality, I wouldn't really be spending that much anyway. What this strategy of splitting your income into these different pots does is really highlight how you can live within your means. So if you're one of those people that, you know, spend on your credit card and then worry about paying that later, then this will really kind of bring you in line, because the numbers will be out there in front of you, and it will give you a good guideline in order to figure out how you can be a little bit more responsible in how you spend your income. As you get older, you might have to change those percentages a little bit. So you might think actually 50% isn't enough in my living fund because I'm paying a mortgage, or, you know, I need to adjust it a little bit more. So in that case, you can do something like 75% in your living fund, 15% in your investment fund, and then 10% in your emergency savings fund. And think of it this way: if you're struggling to get your head around the percentages and think it's completely impossible to do, if the government suddenly increased taxes by 25%, you would have no choice to pay those taxes, right? You'll just make up the shortfall somehow and you'll just manage, you'll get by, I suppose. So putting that 25% into your investments isn't going to hurt you. You will just have to figure out how to get by so that you can just carry on living life. I've talked about The Richest Man in Babylon before in one of my previous videos. If I can find the link, I'll put it down below, where one of the key concepts is to pay yourself first. So as soon as you get your income, you immediately put your investments away, so you don't actually see that money because it's already going and it's already going to go work for you the moment you have your income. And that's the beauty of the zero-based budget, because you will always allocate all the money that you have, and so there's no wastage, no fat dripping off the ends, if you like. And one of the best things about having the investment fund is that as you've invested your money over the years, your investment fund will be giving you money back. So in an ideal situation, what you want to do is all the money that you've made from your investment fund is reinvest it and buy more and make your investment fund grow within itself. This 100% relies on compounding and the snowball effect, which will grow your pot a lot faster than you could imagine. Now, I know this might not be for everybody and some people might just dismiss it, but to be frank, living within your means, setting up pools of money for expenses that you know that are coming and future expenses seems like common sense, really. Now, I know this isn't easy and a lot of people just plain dismiss it, but I think planning for your future and living within your means and knowing what expenses are about to come around the corner is just logical and it's just common sense, really. So again, step back and think about what is being proposed here about the 3 different funds and how you should allocate your income, and then think about creating those funds and implementing them in your life, and trust me, your future self will probably thank you. And if you still don't believe me, write your future self a love note. I think there's a website, futureme.org or something. I'll try and put a link down below where you can write yourself a note, which will be emailed back to you in maybe 5 years time. Forget 5 years, I don't think I was the same person I was a year ago anyway, but everyone's different. So yeah, there you have it. So that's a summary of my 3 pots for beginners when you're thinking about creating a budget, and hopefully that helps. Let me know down below in the comments how you guys budget and whether you have pots or not. Does this work for you guys? Am I being really old-fashioned? Is there something new that I'm missing? Let me know down below, and please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'm a new channel, so I would love all your support. But until next time, cheers guys, bye.